Welcome to the channel where I make your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video is all about the quarantine isolation news, which was announced yesterday by the government of Australia and the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese after the cabinet meeting, by way that the federal government has invited all the state and territory premiers and leaders to Canberra, and furthermore they basically announced this scrap of the mandatory isolation condition, which is good. Also means the end of the pandemic. Let's have a look at the news, and also we will also reflect to what the recent updates on the immigration website. If you choose to travel, enter into Australia, what you really need to look for. Well, perhaps there's nothing to be looked for anymore. Let's have a look. Okay. So news came out from SBS News, as you can see up right on the top left. In the announcement from the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese at the right, defended decisions to end the pandemic leave payment, which is also some sort of burden for the government of Australia as well. Well, obviously, if there is not those emergencies anymore, like in China, they're still coping with the zero COVID policy. Australia has chosen to actually relax this, and a lot of nations around the world is following the same as well, or perhaps they've already been implemented. Okay, so the topic reads: COVID-19 isolation rules and pandemic leave payment are set to end. Here's what you need to know. Okay, so let's have a look. So the subtitle says get rid of a mandatory isolation period. Now that's very good, because if you get contracted with the COVID, perhaps, or if you don't not required to get isolated anymore, you'll just be treated like the flu. I mean, you don't want to do a rat test if you got a flu. No one actually does it. So, and the only thing that required to do the rat test, the antigen test, is basically knowing that whether or not you have contracted COVID, and then you're required to get isolated. But if mandatory isolation will end, then obviously that's the end of the testing kit as well. Okay, so but bear in mind, still personal health and family health is still required to take additional attention if you have some sort of a health condition there anyway. But let's have a look what we have here. The mandatory isolation period of COVID-19 has been scrapped following decision by National Cabinet. The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the state and territory leaders agree people with COVID-19 will no longer be subject to that 5-day stay at home requirement anymore. That's following what had been agreed upon yesterday. The change will come into effect from 14th October, which is going to be 2 weeks away. I'm pretty welcome with this, because that will also mean the increase of travelers entering into Australia. So you may have noticed, well, my industry, I have noticed that some passport holders, some country passport holders, when they apply for for the visitor visa, there's still delay there. Correct? If you do know, people around you, they trying to apply and buy a ticket to enter into Australia. The visa application, although it seems to be very simple, but the delay is still there. But obviously that's all due to the biosecurity control for the pandemic. Now if they're gonna scrap the whole thing, meaning that there's no more quarantine period required, isolation period required, then they were just treated like normal, and we are back to the pre-pandemic condition. Now, the decision to get rid of the mandatory isolation period will also mean the end of pandemic leave payment. So that's for the domestic people in Australia. Pity that they won't get any more payment, but anyway, it's something to be celebrated with. You know, we don't want to get fed by the government all the time. You know, we want to get back to our normal life. Now, the repayment remains for worker in vulnerable setting. Now, that's talking about the people working in hospital or in the aged care sector. So they are still concerned in regards to people working in those serious conditional environment there. So now that's not what we're gonna focus on today. So I think the main thing that we wanted to share with you is this one: the isolation is. It's going to be no more isolation after 14th of October. Now, let's go into the immigration website. So there will definitely be some sort of update on this one. But let's have a read, as this video is recorded on the 1st of October. And let's have a look at what's up there. So the latest update is from 9th of September 2022. Obviously, there's not an update on the 14th of October yet, because we haven't get there yet. So I think this web page from immigration will definitely be updated again. So the masks are no longer required on flight traveling to Australia. So you don't need to wear a mask anymore when you're traveling on a flight going to Australia. But bear in mind, some of the nations or countries still require that to be done over on that side. But when you enter into Australia, there's no more required there. From July 6th, I wonder why they write date, month, and year, and now here, month, date, and year. Okay, anyway, well, the normal way in Australia should be date, month, and year, but I don't know why they have this, you know, the other way. Okay, the way you travel to and from Australia has changed. All traveler should be aware that people entering Australia do not need to provide evidence of vaccination status, so no more vaccination certificates or electronic certificate anymore. Do not need to complete the DPD anymore. Now, I recall back then that's asking a lot of questions, so there's no more requirement on that one. People leaving Australia will not be asked evidence of their vaccination status. Unvaccinated visa holder do not need to travel exemption to into Australia. So great. I think that's it. That's all we need to know. I mean, that's basically, there is no additional thing that requires you to do anymore by entering into Australia or you know, departing from Australia. And if you do get, you know, COVID, there's no more mandatory isolation, 5-day mandatory isolation anymore at all. Although some of my friends over in Australia, they did contracted COVID recently, but I don't think they were in some sort of isolation at all. Anyway, that will be totally scrapped from 14th of October. Now, what does that mean to the migrants? I think for a lot of travelers, for a lot of delays on student visa, a lot of delays on the visitor visa, it will soon be resumed back to the previous norm, whereby I mean, you know, pre-pandemic, and the flight going in and out of Australia will resume back to the norm as well. So again, the tickets, air tickets prices were dropped, and it will be much easier. And I suppose remember the Minister of Immigration, Mr. Giles, was talking about having additional 500 staff being trained up. So I think by then, in October, everything, well, we're in October now, everything will resume back to normal. And excited for the October budget. And I think that would definitely feed a lot more intake for the migrants in the future. Anyway, should you have more question or query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below. And I see you next video. Goodbye.